and Tulsa, and 90 miles north of Dallas, Texas, on Highway 75. The downtown area is the city's vibrant heart, lined with unique, locally owned shops, service providers, and down-home restaurants. Downtown has its share of history, too, featuring the likes of the J.L. Wilson Building from
We'll call the meeting to order here at 5:33. Drew, would you provide our invocation, please?
Pray with me, please. Father God, we give you credit for every good thing in our life. And Father God, we know that this community is a blessing to all of us. Father God, I ask that you give us the wisdom to serve it well. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Would you please stand with me for the pledge?
Roll call, please.
Kevin Keener.
Here.
Drew Jackson.
Here.
Clint Horner. Shane Knight.
Here.
Whitney Kerr. Here.
Our first item of business is consent items. 1A, consider approval of regular meeting minutes of our March 1st, 2022 meeting.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please. Item 2, consider items removed from consent. We don't have any of those. Do we have any information items?
I do not have anything unless you guys have any questions of me.
Any questions? And 2, just to let everyone know that Danielle is obviously joining us remotely, our Community Development Director, so just to let you guys know that. We'll move on to item 4, public hearings. Discussion, consideration, possible action on PC 2022-03, a preliminary plat request for property located near Kale Switch Road and Orchard Road.
Yes, this is a preliminary plat request. This the surrounding zoning is as Ag 1, which is A1. The current zoning is R3. There's a total of about 13 acres or so that's potentially being developed. What they're wanting to do is they're wanting to place about 28 half-acre lots, which is going to contain a triplex per each lot. No notifications were sent out, and nothing has been sent back to staff at this point in time. It is served by Rural Water 5, and there is not city sewer in that area, and I'll explain a little bit of that as well. I reached out to the applicant's engineer, and they said that the smallest lot would be about a half acre. The triplex building area will be about 4,100 square feet. Number of bedrooms per each triplex is going to be about 9 bedrooms. The plan is to use septic tanks with aerobic treatment systems. The per DEQ requirements, they need a little over 8,000 square feet of spray area to be able to have 9 bedrooms on each half-acre lot. The engineers believe that the owners would have enough room on each lot to install the sewer disposal system that can handle the sewer flow from each of the triplexes, and that will have to be approved by DEQ before the building permits and all that. And obviously for any stormwater runoff or anything like that, that will have to be, the engineered plans will have to be submitted back to the city once those are completed. And they will be responsible for placing sidewalks and street lights per the ordinance requirements. As far as the land use map, it has it as mixed residential currently. And this is generally in line with the comprehensive plan. As another note, this property was rezoned back in January of 2021. The applicant back at that point approached staff only just stating that the rezoning was from commercial to residential because they felt that the use of the land would be better suited for residential than commercial development in that particular area. Staff recommendations. Staff has signed off supporting approval. of the preliminary plat. There were a few stipulations that were noted on the sign-off sheets. One of those was the requirement of a stormwater permit and the pollution prevention plan submitted to staff prior to any issuance of a building permit. Another was that there be a firewall in between each unit, and each unit must be sprinkled. And at this point, no further comments have been received at this point in time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and I believe the applicants are also there for any questions.
I do have a question back on the sewage system.
Sure.
And did you say that one system will accommodate 9 bedrooms and is allowed on a half acre?
According to what the engineer stated, yes.
Okay. Any questions? Any further questions for Danielle?
Danielle, obviously, we've had some
I'll get to you in a second.
additional information outside of the engineer. Do you know if the engineer was in attendance today?
I am not sure if he's there or not. It's Bark and Associates. It'll be Danny or Wayne. I'm not sure if they're there.
Okay. We got those stats on the flow of sewer in writing, or was that part of the plan originally?
It was in an email that I sent out to the engineer, and they stated that it's in email.
Okay. Also, you mentioned that all the department heads had signed off on this deal. Have we received additional signatures since you submitted the packet?
No, that's all the signatures have been submitted prior to the to sending out the agenda.
Okay, I think we're still missing some.
They may be on different pages. Sometimes we have a couple different pages that are on there. Let's see.
Well, that may be what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes it'll be different pages, just the way it kind of worked out. I know one of them we had like 3 different pages. Yes, on this one there's 2 different pages. One of them has most of the signatures, then the fire marshal and the city engineer signed off on a separate page.
Yeah, I see that. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other questions for Danielle? Anybody? Okay. What I'll do is I'll allow the applicant to speak. If they want to speak to that, and then anybody in opposition or have questions, we'll get to everybody after the applicant. So, does anybody want to speak towards, have anything to say about the application? And if you would come up, if you would please give us your name at the podium. If you have anything you want to add.
I don't have anything to add. The Barker associate.
If you would please give us your name. Please give us your name.
My name is Henry.
Okay.
And Wu and I is the owner for this project.
Okay.
Yeah, we always use the Barker, Danny as an engineer because they're very professional. We very focus on the quality. Whenever Daniel asks us to adding anything like walkway, we willing to do everything the city required. Yeah. Based on my understanding right now, everything fit the city's construction code. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. If you want to, if you have a question or want to speak, and
I'm Jimmy Bush, manager of the Brown Jackson LLC. And I was wanting to find out questions if this is going to be like a low-income type rental property, and what type of structure they're going to have, or it's going to be a siding type structure, or brick homes type deals, or because we own land right across the road from 60 acres, and we're kind of concerned what's going to be built there.
okay. We can, we can ask. I don't know what kind of construction do you have planned for it? Exterior, what type of exterior construction? Brick, siding?
It's a kind of three-bedroom, triplex, and the square feet is almost like a single family. It's like 1,400 square feet per unit,
I know it's gonna be 3 units, but it's gonna be.
How about the outside of it? Is it gonna be brick?
Yeah, will be great for
Okay.
sure. We notified here. Lots of people have a house demand, and we trying to build a bridge between single family and
Right.
low.
Okay,
We trying to meet this market. Yeah.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And I will tell you that, whatever the plan is at this point, as long as they meet the requirement for the facade, the ordinance for residential facade requirements,
Yeah.
they can change the siding, they can, it
Take
can be
whatever.
brick siding. So as long as they follow the ordinance, they'll be allowed to use
Thank you.
what it allows. You bet.
Good evening. I'm Brian Danker, and Senior Executive Officer of Legal and Compliance with Choctaw Nation. And we did have some questions on this property. Just first, I guess, you already had mentioned, I believe, that it was included in the comprehensive plan, and we were wondering if that plan, when that was updated, and if that included consideration of the cultural center that we have built basically adjacent to this property, and the expansion that we have currently completed, the $700 million expansion. So I just wondered if that was included in the overall comprehensive plan for that area.
Danielle,
So
go ahead.
on the comprehensive plan, that was just updated, approved, updated in September of 2021. As far as the future land use map, that was done a little bit prior to that, and I don't believe that we really knew about the cultural center at that point, as far as what was going to be there and the expansion and all that. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. And another concern we have was with this being, basically triplexes, is you basically are going to triple the vehicles that would be involved from, a normal operation if it was single units. So have you looked at, you could possibly be generating with that development 700 vehicles per day. So are there any plans to address any of the street improvements or anything of that nature around that area?
That would be a question for our Public Works Director. I'm not aware of anything at this point in time, but our Public Works crews handle most of those type of questions, and I don't have them off the top. I don't know the answers off the top of my head.
And another issue, and I believe it was addressed a little bit, was just drainage on this property. What are the plans for drainage? Of course, if those are at higher elevation, would that water be directed over onto our cultural center property, which has, we have fields out there for stickball and other things. We have our traditional mound out there and some other items that are in that field space between our cultural center building and this property. So what considerations are being made for the drainage?
For the drainage, they will have to submit engineered plans as far as how that drainage will work. Typically, we'll have the preliminary plat, and then it'll turn into where they'll submit the drainage plans. Per ordinance, they are not allowed just to kind of shift all the water onto you guys. They have to keep it at the same rate that it currently is.
And then, so this is the preliminary plat. Then when they produce the final plat, you'll have another hearing on that.
Correct.
Another question we had was, with our cultural center being right there, and of course, major tourism development there, is there any consideration to requiring privacy fences or anything of that nature, basically between the development and the cultural center?
you can ask them if they can, and they might be able to answer if they plan on putting fencing up. I can go back and look at ordinance and see if there's a requirement between residential and commercial. There may be, I just haven't looked at that. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Danielle, it looks like the current zoning map has, the cultural center would be ag. Looks like it's in the ag zone unless I'm, okay.
Yeah, so that's possible.
Nothing's ringing a bell right off the bat that there's gotta be fencing between residential and ag. But we can look into that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it real quick, but it's not coming up as fast as I'd like.
Between
I know there's
residential-
something between like industrial and things like that, but I'm not remembering anything in between commercial and residential. But I'm going to keep looking, see if I can find something. In the meantime, they might be able to answer if they intend to put up fencing. They have not mentioned that in conversations yet.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I can answer.
If you would, please come to the mic.
Okay. This is Henry. I can answer three key questions from Choctaw. First thing is traffic. I know Barker also take care of the design for the road expansion for that area, and I think they will consider everything into this, for our engineer design. So I don't think any issue here. And the drainage, we will sacrifice the lots for the pond, so you don't need to worry about that. It will very strictly follow the city code. And third thing is the fence. We do consider fence, but it depends the budget, the loan. We like build a good community, which we already did one by First United Methodist Church. You can visit that one. It's very awesome community. Yeah, that's pretty much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you already discussed a little bit, one of the other big concerns we had was the fact that there's no sewer plan for discharge there. And we do have concerns with this volume of residences and being the triplexes that, yes, you have 9 bedrooms, but you also have, 3 times the restrooms, 3 times the washer and dryers and all of those things. And of course, the ground can only hold so much. So is there any possibility of requiring some type of, different sewer treatment?
There is no city sewer out there at all, and based on conversations with Public Works, there is no plans to extend sewer out in that direction at this point in time. So really, their only option is some sort of septic or aerobic system, and that would have to meet DEQ requirements, and it would have to meet all those requirements, which are pretty strict requirements on that.
If that answered your question, it would fall to, since city doesn't have sewer,
Right.
it's gonna fall to DEQ to meet their requirements.
Okay. And let's see. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to clarify, Tammy Gwynn, Choctaw Nation, our cultural center did open in July of '21. So before it was published in the fall, our cultural center was open.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to speak regarding this? Danny, do you have any information just on the top of your head regarding the sewer system? That's a topic I'm curious about. If you could speak to that just for a moment, please.
This is Danny. Corey. So we didn't do any study for the sewer system yet, but the owner gonna hire someone to go do a soil test. Based on ODQ requirement, it looked like we have enough. It requires roughly 8,500 square foot of treatment area. which is the lots are half acre, so that's like 22,000. So we should have enough area. But until they do the study, it's called soil profile study, I don't have,
That'll tell you what kind of system you can use, I guess. the soil
Exactly,
profile.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion?
Just speaking for myself, I can certainly understand, concerns, when we have a major development and an attraction like the cultural center, being butted up next to R3. Obviously, to some degree of failure to plan there. That said, with the current zoning and meeting all the requirements, I don't know that this commission has any reason to deny. But Whitney, do you see it the same?
I do. I mean, I understand. I kind of had to rack my brain for even remembering when we rezoned this, but I do remember it after I thought about it for a little bit. But, I mean, they've met all of the preliminary plat requirements. Quite honestly, it would be stretching for us to deny it, and I don't think we would have a good reason to deny it at this point, so.
Be different if it was zoning request.
I will point out that our future land use map calls for this large area here to be multifamily or mixed residential, to be more specific.
I think that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please. I will say for anybody who's not been a part of these meetings before, is our board makes a recommendation to the council. Council makes final decision next week, next Tuesday evening. So if you want to be a part of that meeting, it's next Tuesday. And also, yes, it is a preliminary plat. We'll move to item 4B, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2022-05, a replat request for property located near North 4th Avenue and Willow Street.
Yes, this is a replat request to join two lots together. The current zoning is R3 general residential. The surrounding zoning is also R3 general residential and has single-family homes in the area. The current lot is about 25 feet by 148 feet. So the way the two lots are now, they do not meet ordinance requirements. Joining the lots together, they'll be just under or right around 48 feet in width, so they still will be just shy of the 50-foot width requirement. Other than that, the lots do meet the rest of the requirements. This area was platted around 1913, and all the lots in that area was 25-foot lots in width. And it does not appear that any lots in that area really went through any sort of process to join any lots together or anything like that. This lot is kind of surrounded on both sides and doesn't really have any other additional space that they could add to it. Notifications are made to the surrounding property owners. Nothing has been received back from from them at this point in time. Together, the lots would be about 7,400 square feet. The applicant is planning to place a single-family home with its own driveway on the lot. There is city water and sewer in the area. The M&O supervisor noted on the sign-off sheet that this nearest sewer main is in between North 4th and North 5th on Willow. So the applicant will need to get with Public Works and make sure that city water and sewer get to the property. The current future land use map has the area as mixed residential. So this request is generally in line with the comp plan. Staff has signed off with the note about from the M&O about the sewer. And it was also noted that no easements were listed on the plat. No further comments have been received at this time. The applicant was not able to join us this evening. But if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Danielle? Anybody present that wants to speak to this case?
Mr. Markham, if you don't mind, I have a question for you. So I guess to share my assumption, you can tell me if I'm on the right track or not here. So it seems like the commission would have the ability to combine the two lots, but not necessarily the authority to get permission to build there, considering it doesn't meet the minimum frontage.
I think that's correct. So if this was a lot of this size, of the combined size that existed previously, it meets some exception requirements and somebody could build on it. It had to be that size as of a certain date, so that when you combine two lots into one lot now, it doesn't meet that exception. So you could still approve the plat, the re-plat, and combine those two lots, but it still doesn't meet the minimum lot size and would have to then go through the Board of Adjustment, who could grant an exception. Actually, it's a variance, not an exception. They could grant a variance that would allow building on that site, which I think would probably be appropriate given the area, but it would still have to go through that process to be able to build on that lot.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think there was maybe one assumption that, this commission by, replatting would basically get permission to build, and I didn't want to confuse the two.
That would not be my opinion. I mean, I think the approval of a plat still results in a lot size that's below the minimum. It's close, but it's below the minimum, so that an additional step through the Board of Adjustment would be necessary.
And by doing this, these lots already have a hardship. So I just want to, for my own sake, understand that we're not creating a hardship.
That's right. I mean, I think that there's already, if the combination is not done, the lots don't even come close enough to a variance that would, they would probably just remain dormant and not used.
Okay.
So you're right. I think you're coming close to eliminating a hardship by combining them. That is my opinion. It doesn't matter really what my opinion is, but you're coming close to eliminating a hardship rather than creating one. So I think that's right.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
As long as we're on the lines of sharing opinions, I personally don't have any issues with someone building there. I just don't want to confuse, what the commission is accomplishing today.
Those were exactly my comments on this particular case. Was that I think the re-plat is fine in my opinion, but there's two striking issues that would need a variance for them to be able to build there. So, and as long as that's the understanding, like we just discussed, then I'm fine with it as well.
And I don't know that the applicant has asked for this. I suspect that we've done this in the past on sort of other issues, maybe not exactly this one, but where the re-plat could be contingent upon the Board of Adjustments granting of a variance. Because I guess what I would, for the applicant, it wouldn't make much sense to go through the platting process and then get to the end of it and the Board of Adjustment deny the variance, and either the property owner has to give up or then go across the street to district court. But I think that, but he may not have asked for that. So if he didn't ask for that, then it's probably right for approval.
Okay, thanks.
Whitney, would it be prudent to make a motion with that contingency without there being a request? I mean, it's obviously makes sense to me, but
Yeah, it's fine, because, I mean, that's gonna be within the anticipated umbrella of what's going on here, so there's no problem at all with that.
That's just assuming that's what the applicant wants. So,
Well, and truthfully, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter, because, like you said, it's gotta go through both processes for it to proceed anyway, so we can we could approve the plat either with or without the condition, and unless it actually goes through the Board of Adjustment, they're not gonna get approval to build anyhow, so, I mean, we don't control the building, we can only say, your plat looks good, so.
was that a motion?
Listen, you know I don't do that. But yes, I will make a motion to approve the replat and to conditionally include the fact that it would have to pass the Board of Adjustment before any building could occur.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please. We'll move on to item 4C, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2022-08, rezoning commercial, rezoning request from A1 General Agricultural District to C2 Highway Commercial and Commercial Recreation District for property located at 3202 West University Boulevard.
Yes, the rezoning request to go from A1 to C2. All surrounding properties in that area is zoned as C2 that abut the immediate property. The property is 80 foot by 330 foot. So again, the property is just shy of the width requirement for the C2 zoning district. The applicant stated that they wanted to rezone it for potential of commercial uses. It should be noted that the property currently does not meet the ag requirements as far as lot size requirements. Notifications have been made again in this area, and nothing has been received at this point in time. Total of this property is about 0.06 acres, so it does have a home on the property. The entire area is made up of commercial, residential, and ag zone properties. The current future land use map has commercial land uses, so the rezoning is generally in compliance with or in line with the future land use map. Again, staff's only concern on this one is that it doesn't meet the current lot width requirements for the C2 zoning. If you have any questions, the applicant is is there, and then I can also answer any other questions.
Any questions for Danielle? Mr. Holder, do you want to speak?
If y'all have any questions.
Okay.
I mean, we have it's a single-family home that's on there right now.
Mm-hmm.
We've been approached to rent it as an office. It will be six offices with a conference room, 3 bathrooms, one will be handicap accessible, and a entry area and a break room. We'll pave the parking out in the front, and because it is just one lot, we will retain in the parking lot and let it out right there like it exits right now.
Okay.
That I didn't realize it was a little too narrow for the zoning requirements. My wife sent in the zoning information.
I know that's one of my questions, and we may get to it here in a minute on, is regarding the size of it. And, minimum for the C2 zoning is 100 feet of frontage. I think yours is 80 foot of frontage width. So that's the concern that I was gonna ask, Mr. Markham and Whitney on, to see if my thinking's in line. I'm just telling you what I'm thinking before I ask them, but, that my assumption is if we were to approve it for a zoning change to C2, we create a hardship. That means that lot can't be used for C2 because it doesn't meet the requirements. So then when you want to go remodel, build, do whatever you want to do, get a permit of any sort, they say, hey, it doesn't meet the criteria. I want to keep that from happening. So just laying it all out, my thoughts there together is, would you consider looking at a CO zoning, which is for office, since that's what you're
That's
using?
all that's gonna be there, is an office. I'm not sure, I know they gave her guidance to go to the C2. I'm not real sure why, I wasn't in the meeting. But what the property will be used for the next probably 10 years will be how long the lease is, it will be an office.
Okay.
You know, so I do not have a problem with it being CO, just office space. That's what I envisioned when I bought it 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
So that would be fine with me. I don't know if that means we have to restart the process.
I don't think so, but if I have another question, I'll holler at you.
I think that was my question as well. It seems like CO might resolve the issues that we have, but.
And I do have, I guess I'll ask Mr. Markham this question on, I was asking the question before about the hardship, if we were creating one, combining two lots, but also on this one, it appears we would be creating a hardship if we zone it.
I certainly think you're creating a condition that the intended use is non-compliant.
Okay.
Still may be ripe for a Board of Adjustment variance, which may or may not be appropriate, but they could make that determination. So I still think there would have to be a Board of Adjustment decision before occupation. Another issue came up, I think, with Mr. Holder. He was asked if he would consider sort of amending his request to a C0. I think that's appropriate without additional process or advertisement or notice, because it would be a less restrictive request. So the notice that's gone out has put the public on notice that there is a request, and if there were objections, people would have an opportunity to object. If there is a less restrictive amendment to that request, I don't believe there's anybody that could claim they didn't have notice of something that was less restrictive. So to the extent that an applicant,
I'm viewing it as more restrictive. I don't know if
I'm sorry, yeah, and I may have mixed that up. Yes, you're right.
I'm thinking I may be looking at it
It's a
wrong.
more restrictive request, so that doesn't violate the notice. If he was came in asking to go from C2 to industrial,
Right.
that would be a less restrictive request that would need additional notice to the public.
Okay.
You're right. Thank you
Okay.
for that. I was saying it wrong. But yes, it is a more restrictive request, so that purportedly anyone that would be objecting to a C2 would be here to object and would also, but may not object to a C0. So,
Okay.
but does that answer those
Answers
questions?
my question.
Okay.
Any other questions for that? I do have a question for Whitney. The way I don't know if it's the current zone, maybe it is current zoning map. So looking at the current zoning map, do you consider a CO zone for this piece of property? Do you consider that a spot zone? And I'm keeping in mind the future land use map shows that area and it just says commercial. It doesn't say specifically these different segments of commercial.
So, from one perspective, yes, because it's a CO right in the middle of a bunch of C2. But it's actually a fix and a better improvement on the spot zone that already exists there because we've got an A1 in the middle of all this C2.
Okay.
So technically it was never spot zoned to that A1 because it just never got rezoned. Everything got rezoned around it. But I view the CO as actually being something of a correction, catching it up as opposed to truly a spot zoning.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Two lots over, you're on a CO. There's an existing CO 2 lots over,
Right.
so.
Right.
Just as a matter of discussion and a personal opinion is I would not be in favor of C2. It seems like, you know, it's more appropriate to have a CO when we have a classification that meets the need and stays within ordinances without a variance. So if we have a solution without a variance, that seems much more appropriate than not.
Looks like we're headed, leaning towards a CO, so if you have any objection to that, I want to give you a chance to speak.
I don't have any objection to it. That's what, I was asking for.
Okay.
Because under my understanding is that's what an office is.
Okay.
Is a CO.
Yes.
And as long as we can have an office there, there'll be around 12 employees, you know, and then when they have meetings there could be up to 20 people.
Okay.
That's really about it.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion?
I would have moved to approve an amended request to a CO.
I'll make a motion that we approve an amendment to this request to a more restrictive CO zoning classification.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
That's what I'm looking at, like, that's a lot of yeses. You only have so many at the beginning of the night you can use, right?
We'll move to item 4D, discussion, consideration, and possible action on PC 2022-09, a conditional use permit to place a billboard sign on property located at 4516 West Main Street.
Is this where we say no?
So the current property is zoned as I-1, which is light industrial. The area that's abuts the property is mixed up between I-1 and C2 that abuts the property. The property is about 2 acres in size. The applicant has a lease with R&R Signs to place the billboard. The property is within the Highway Overlay District. Per city ordinance, they're required to apply for a conditional use permit to place the billboard. Notification's been made to the surrounding property owners and nothing has been received by staff at this point in time. The ordinances do, as stated, require for any billboard to go that's within a highway overlay district, which is allowed to have within the highway overlay district, but they're required to have a conditional use permit. The billboard's approximately 60 feet in height. And about 384 square feet. The billboard is about 40 feet from the Main Street property line and 60 feet from the west property line. Given that information, the billboard does meet the requirements within the sign ordinance. The future land use map has this area as commercial, residential, mixed use. And then let's see, staff doesn't have any problems with it. Should be noted that the applicant or their representatives will be required to pull a sign permit if the request is approved.
Danielle, did you say that it does meet the sign ordinance?
Yes, it will. The plans that we have for the sign now, it does meet the sign ordinance. They're just required by code to get a conditional use permit.
Okay, so I'm just making sure. I know some signs in the past have had to go before Board of Adjustment, and I just
Correct.
This one will not. Is that correct?
No, it does. It will not. No.
Any questions for Danielle?
Kevin, just an additional thing. My name is Scott Crane, and I've already got the required permit from the state.
Okay.
So in the past, my history of my young life of building billboards, it meets all the requirements. It's in from your ordinances, it meets all those requirements. But in the last, and Danielle can tell me, in the year or two, since I put any billboards in the city limits, they added a condition that it has to get a conditional use permit, even though it's not conditional use. So that's why I'm here. But it meets all of the requirements for billboard size, height, placement. I've got a permit from the state, which is harder to get than from the city, used to be. But yeah, we meet all those requirements. It's not a digital, it's just a plain billboard. It can be up to 1,000 square feet, it's under that. It can be up to 60 feet, it's probably gonna be a little less than that. All the setbacks meet it, all the permits are there. It's completely legit according to all of your ordinances.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Just another example of me being a good citizen, as usual.
We probably don't need any more examples. Any questions, discussion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Call for the vote, please. All green.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to commend your board here on being the first board I've ever come before, after several of them having a 100% yes vote. You guys must have re-upped and got some more yes votes, so I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you. Danielle, do we have any new business?
We do not, unless you guys have any questions about anything at this point in time.
Danielle, I don't know that it's new business, but I did have a question. I had heard that a month or two ago, there was a ordinance passed that does not allow any use of city sewer for those who are outside of city limits. Just wanted to get some context on that.
Yes, the council did adopt an ordinance that basically where they could not get, I believe it's city sewer and city water, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have any context as far as what transpired before that. Tom or a council member there may be able to answer that one better than I.
So the ordinance didn't prohibit it, it set up a procedure for it. So in the past, there was not really a designated procedure for the city to grant those outside of city limits use of city water or city sewer. And there's some argument for it in that it's revenue generating. There's arguments against it in that we have capacity problems at times. So in the absence of an established procedure, the council adopted an ordinance that that required that the council approve. There was an application process, and that any user applicant outside the city limits be required to come before council for approval. Is that right, Councilman?
That sounds great.
So it wasn't a strict prohibition, it just set up a procedure, more, identifiable than which was there before.
Got it, thanks.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
You voted for us, huh? Thank you, Danielle.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.